Hi guys, most people don't know this, but when the Russian strongman Vladimir Putin emerged as the new face of Russia, he didn't just walk into power, he consolidated it with surgical precision. The moment he took over power in the Kremlin, he looked around and understood one thing instantly, and it was that Russia was not being ruled by politicians. It was being ruled by billionaires, men that had the means, the power, and the affluence. So what did he do? He summoned 21 of Russia's richest men. I'm talking about the oligarchs, the true power brokers of the post-Soviet chaos. So Putin called them into a private meeting, a meeting historians may not fully uncover, but whose consequence reshape Russia forever. And in that room, Putin delivered one of the coldest and cleanest political deals ever made. You keep your wealth, but you stay out of politics. That was the deal. Simple. Keep your wealth or you stay out of politics. So the moment you interfere, you lose everything. It was not a negotiation, it was an ultimatum. And overnight, the balance of power shifted. What came out of that meeting became what I call one of the greatest political deals in modern history. A silent handshake that told the world that look, Russia was no longer a playground. It was once again a controlled empire. So that was it. Putin's message to the oligarchs and to the world was brutally simple. Those who oppose me will be crushed, and those who stand by me will be rewarded. And for over 2 decades, we have seen Putin live by this creed without blinking. Western democratic leaders have come and gone, talking about the likes of Bush, Obama, Biden, and a lot more, a rotation of faces and ideologies. But Putin, he remains a permanent fixture, a one-man institution. So you see, the modern Russian system is not built around parliament, not even the constitution, not even the military, not even the ideology. The system is built around one man, and it is Putin. He is the pillar, he is also the spine, he is the ironclad holding the entire architecture together. But here's the problem with this style of leadership. And history has shown us time and time again that when a nation becomes so dependent on one man, the strength of that nation becomes tied to the flaws of that man. And every strong man has a flaw, whether you like it or not. Every strong man has a flaw. I understand geopolitics and leadership when I say these things. See, the likes of Saddam Hussein, he was brilliant at consolidation, but he was terrible at knowing when to stop. His ego dragged Iraq into ruin. Another example is Muammar Gaddafi of Libya. Visionary on some days, erratic on others. His refusal to share power ended his reign violently. How about Napoleon Bonaparte? Well, this guy was a military genius, but a single miscalculation in which he invaded Russia shattered his empire. And I can go on and on. How about Hitler, who was a ruthless strategist early on, but he was blinded by ideology and ego. He waged wars he couldn't win, the likes of Joseph Stalin, who was in absolute control of his country. But he had this issue of mistrust, and this thing consumed him to the point where he had to even start purging his own most loyal allies. The pattern is always the same with such leaders. Strong men rise with brilliance, and strong men falls with ego. And as the war in Ukraine stretched on, many analysts will agree with me that Putin flaws are now showing up. A great leader must know when to advance, when to retreat, and when to pause. And that seems to be the problem of Putin right now. Ego can push even the strongest into the path of self destruction. That's what most people don't understand. Ego can push even the strongest into the path of destruction. So look closely at Putin today. In his early years, he sat close to his generals, shoulder to shoulder. The confidence was there, the confidence of a leader among his people, knowing quite well that they got his back and he got theirs also. But today the tables have grown longer, the distance has widened, and then came one of the biggest betrayals. Yevgeny Prigozhin, the Wagner boss. This guy was once Putin's own attack dog. But guess what? He turned around and chose to march towards Moscow in an open defiance, claiming that he wanted to remove corrupt military generals. For a moment, the world held its breath, and it was like the beginning of the fall of Putin. It was like the great day has finally come, but like all men who challenged Putin before him, Prigozhin's fate was sealed. His rebellion ended abruptly, and months later, his plane fell from the sky. This was a final message from the Kremlin that there will be no second betrayal. You need to understand this. This is what happens when power becomes too concentrated on one man. You begin to fear shadows, you begin to suspect loyalty, you begin to isolate yourself, and you begin to fortify yourself inside a castle, not of bricks, but of paranoia. And most of the times, this castle becomes your own prison. So you see, today, Putin is extremely isolated. Well, you might say, yeah, he's still loved by many Russians. Yes, that's the truth, especially older generations who remember the chaos of the 90s. But politically, internally, and strategically, he is becoming a lone wolf inside a fortress of his own making. Because behind those walls, the long tables and stage meetings, one question hangs on the air, and it is this: how does a man like Putin deals with trust? A man who rose through the ranks of the KGB, a man who saw betrayal as a daily currency to step ahead of the ladder, a man who believes survival is warfare. So, for such a man, trust for him will definitely be a luxury, maybe even a weakness. But at this point, he is probably suspicious of everyone, even his own cat. That's the irony of such a game that Putin is playing. And this is what the world must understand. When analyzing Russia today, a strong nation held together by a single man is only as stable as the man himself. Quote me anywhere. I said a strong nation held together by a single man is only as strong as the man himself, as stable as the man himself. So you see, Vladimir Putin, the strong man of Russia, is powerful, yes. He is feared, yes. He's strategic, yes, but also aging, also isolated, and also walking deeper into the shadows of his own empire.